After a boy named Arthur is woken up by his granny, he tells her that he was dreaming about Africa and the things his grandfather, Archibald, did for the local tribes there. As he continues talking about his grandfather, he shows Granny some things he found in one of Archibald's books. As he mentions that Archibald invented an irrigation system for a tribe in Africa, Granny corrects him and mentions that the Romans were the ones who invented it. Arthur says he hasn't heard that before, but Granny tells him to put the book away because they have to go shopping. After they leave the house with Granny's van, it takes them a while before they get to the shopping center. Just then, Granny gives Arthur the shopping list and tells him that she wants to see someone in a nearby store. After she waits for Arthur to leave, Granny sneakily goes into the store of a woman named Kerman, who gives her a special package in a round box. They both seem excited about this, and Kerman tells Granny to leave already before Arthur sees her. Granny thanks Kerman for helping her with the package, and she quickly returns to her van. After a while, Granny returns home with Arthur, but she stops him from helping her carry the things in the trunk.
No, it's fine. You go off and play.
As he heads to the workshop to play with his dog, Granny secretly carries the box she got from Kerman into the house. Meanwhile, Arthur tells his dog that he wants to invent an even better irrigation system that will be used to water the plants in their garden. After he does this by using some bamboo and plastic straws, he passes water through it and looks happy to see that his makeshift invention worked. Suddenly, Granny tells Arthur to come inside because he has a call from his parents. As he looks excited, he runs into the house and tells his parents that he just invented a new irrigation system. Arthur's mom and dad don't seem to know what he's talking about, but they tell him that they're sorry because they won't be able to visit him for his birthday. Arthur looks disappointed by this, but his parents still sing him a happy birthday song.
Happy birthday, son!
After the call ends, Arthur looks really sad, but Granny eventually brings a cake to the living room. Arthur feels much better and thanks Granny for the cake. She also gives him a toy car as a present. Arthur looks happy about this and asks Granny how she was able to bake a cake, even though the oven is faulty. Granny says that Kerman made it for her, and Arthur mentions that it's fantastic. Before he blows out the candles, Granny tells Arthur to make a wish, and he says that he wants his grandfather to be around for his next birthday. Later that night, Granny decides to tell Arthur a story from Archibald's book. She then talks about a tribe of tall people called the Bogo Matasalai, who lived in perfect harmony with another tribe called the Minimoys, who were very short. As Arthur sees a picture of a girl inside Archibald's book, he asks Granny who she is. Granny then mentions that the girl is Princess Selenia.
Wow. Did they get along?
The daughter of the king of the Minimoys. Arthur says she's beautiful, and Granny mentions that the king gave Archibald the secret of how to find him anytime he wanted. She eventually says that it's what Archibald used to say every time he was a little drunk. As Arthur stares at Selenia's photo, he says that he likes the Minimoys, and Granny tells him to go to bed already. After Granny leaves the room, she heads to the living room and stares at a photo of Archibald before saying that she and Arthur miss him. It then turns out that Archibald has been missing for a while since he went on an adventure. The next morning, while Arthur is playing outside, a man named Davido arrives at the house. As he gets out of his car, he accidentally steps on Arthur's ball and falls to the ground. Arthur finds this funny, but Davido seems pissed, and he throws the ball into the water tank. Arthur eventually goes to get it, and Davido heads toward Granny to inform her that he has now obtained the right legal documents to claim the land because of a huge debt he's owed.
Chief of police who countersigned the order of eviction.
He adds that if Archibald doesn't sign the document, he'll be back in 2 days by noon to evict them from the house. Granny looks disappointed by this, but Davido just walks away. Just then, Arthur asks Granny if they'll have to leave the house, and she says it's now inevitable because she can't hold off Davido any longer. Arthur asks about the rubies the Matasalais gave Archibald. Granny says that Archibald hid them somewhere in the garden, but she has not been able to find them after weeks of digging. Arthur then walks away and says that he's going to the garden to find the rubies. Just before Davido leaves, he sees Arthur's toy car on the ground and angrily kicks it into a drain hole. Shortly after, Arthur digs several spots in the garden, but still doesn't find the treasure. Granny then heads to a pawn shop to sell one of Archibald's things. Unfortunately, the artifact is severely undervalued,
kind of exotic object just isn't selling anymore.
And she only gets a small amount of money for it. Back at the house, Arthur starts looking at his grandfather's book again because he believes that Archibald must have left a clue that will help him find the rubies. As he keeps looking through the pages, he sees one in which Archibald wrote about someone named Maltazard, who is also called Evil M. Almost immediately, he sees Selenia's photo again and realizes that his grandfather wrote something at the back. Interestingly, the text at the back implies that if Arthur wants to find the land of the Minimoys, he needs to trust in Shakespeare. Just as Arthur realizes that the Minimoys are living somewhere in the garden, Granny arrives home with an antique dealer who wants to buy Archibald's things. Arthur cannot believe that Granny really wants to sell the items, and he tells her that he has already found a map leading to the land of the Minimoys. Granny doesn't think they're real, and she tells Arthur to let the antique dealer and his men evaluate the things they want. Just as they do this, the antique dealer sees a small banner that reads, "Some words may hide others." He then asks whose quote it is, and Granny says it's Shakespeare's.
Shakespeare.
As Arthur hears this, he looks confused and wonders if the quote is related to the land of the Minimoys. After a while, Archibald's things are sold for $300, but almost immediately, DeVito sends someone to collect most of it as part of the debt Granny and Archibald owes him. Arthur looks disappointed by this, and as the phone lines are also cut off, he complains to Granny that it's obvious DeVito is trying to force them out. After he says that he'll never let anyone take the house, he heads upstairs to look at the Shakespeare quote. Almost immediately, the power company cuts off supply to the house, and Arthur is forced to light a candle. As he then looks at the banner closely, he realizes that Archibald hid some texts behind it. Arthur looks happy about it, and as he reads the hidden text on the banner and other items in the room, he figures out that Archibald wants him to find the land of the Minimoys.
Task of accomplishing my mission now falls to you.
Arthur also learns that to get to the land of the Minimoys, he'll have to know which day the next passage will fall. According to Archibald's hidden clues, there's only one passage per year at midnight, and Arthur will have to use a universal calendar to figure out the night of the 10th moon. Interestingly, Arthur checks Archibald's calendar and realizes that the night of the 10th moon is tonight. Much later, after Granny puts him to bed, Arthur sneaks out of his room and goes to check Archibald's office for some items. Unfortunately, the office is locked, and as he sneaks into Granny's room to take the key, she catches him. She then sends him back to his room and locks him inside. After she leaves, though, Arthur sneaks out through the window and goes to the workshop to get some tools. He then heads back into the house and knocks down Granny's sleeping medicine into her cup of tea. Almost immediately, Granny drinks her tea and falls asleep, and Arthur accidentally breaks the door while resting on it. Just then, he steals the key and heads to his grandfather's office. As he gets there, he opens a secret box and finds a map inside. As he then follows his grandfather's instructions, he heads out to look for an elf ornament in the garden. Since he can't see well without lights, he drives Granny's van toward the garden but ends up hitting a tree.
I need more light.
Luckily, the lights still stay on, and he sees the elf. After he moves it, he sees a tube on the ground and goes back into the house to bring out a telescope and some other items from the box in Archibald's office. Arthur runs really fast because it's almost midnight, but as he falls to the ground, a tall man enters the house to ask for his name. After Arthur confirms his name, the man takes him outside, and he sees some other tall men waiting for him. Interestingly, they turn out to be Maltazard, and they set up the telescope, which will help Arthur get to the land of Minimoys. Arthur asks if they won't come with him, but the leader of the Maltazard says that only one person can pass through. He adds that Arthur is the best choice to fight against Evil M. As Arthur asks if the M stands for Maltazard, the Maltazard look scared and tell him not to say the word again because it brings bad luck. Their leader adds that Archibald once went off to fight Evil M, and it's now up to Arthur to continue his grandfather's fight. After Arthur controls the telescope to direct a light beam to the sky, the leader of the Maltazard tells him that the door to the land of Minimoys is now open, but he needs to convince them to be able to go in. As Arthur then looks through the telescope, he sees a Minimoy named Beta Meech, who asks why he used the beam.
I hope you have a good reason for using the beam like that.
Arthur then introduces himself and says that he's Archibald's grandson. He also mentions that the reason he activated the beam is to get the Minimoys to help help him find his grandfather's treasure. Beta Meche doesn't seem interested in this, but Arthur tells him that someone is coming to clear the garden and build more houses on the land. Since this could affect the Minimoys, Beta Meche agrees to let him in. After he calls a ferryman to open the doorway, Arthur slowly grows smaller, and as he wonders what's happening, the leader of the Maltazard tells him that he's now heading to the land of Minimoys. He also informs Arthur that he only has 36 hours before the doorway closes again, for another 1,000 days. Arthur then looks much calmer and tells the man that he'll do everything he can to get back in time. Shortly after, Arthur goes through the telescope and is eventually turned into a Minimoy just as he lands in the kingdom. Beta Mech then welcomes him and says that the royal council is already waiting for Arthur. Almost immediately, they head to a place where Princess Selenia is about to draw out a special sword from the ground. Before she does this, Beta Mech interrupts her, and Selenia seems pissed by this. It turns out that they're actually siblings.
I hope you have good reason for daring to disrupt this important ceremony.
And Beta Mech tells the king that the light beam was activated a few minutes ago. As the king asks who Arthur is, Beta Mech says he's Archibald's grandson, and that he has come to inform them about a great misfortune that is about to befall them. Before the king can respond, Selenia interrupts them and mentions that the Minimoys only have one great misfortune, and it's Maltazard. She adds that, as the princess, she'll take on the task of protecting her people. As she then tries to remove the special sword from the ground, it remains stuck, and it turns out that she's not yet worthy enough to release it. She looks disappointed by this, but the king then decides to hear what Arthur has to say. After he's invited to the front, Arthur greets Selenia quite well because he still admires her. He then greets the king, but before he says anything else, a man named Miro shows up in front of him and seems excited to see him. As he mentions that he was Archibald's good friend, the king pushes Miro to the side and asks what Arthur came for. Arthur then says that in 2 days, someone is coming to destroy the house and the garden. He adds that the only way to stop it from happening is to pay off the man. He also mentions that he came to meet the Minimoys because he wants to find his grandfather's treasure. The king then mentions that Archibald was a great man.
Your grandfather was a remarkable man.
And they learned a lot from him. He also tells Arthur that when Archibald was with them, he searched for the treasure throughout the 7 kingdoms and found it in a forbidden city called Necropolis, which is now ruled by Maltazard. As he mentions that no one ever returns from the Forbidden Land, one of the guards mentions that there's someone outside the central gate. After the gate is opened, they see a man named Gondolo looking hurt and lying on the ground. The king looks shocked and mentions that he thought Gondolo was lost forever in the Forbidden Lands. Before Selenia goes toward him, Arthur calls her back and tells her that he thinks it's a trap because something seems off. Selenia doesn't believe him, and as she gets closer to Gondolo, the injured man tells her that it's a trap. As she wonders what he's talking about, some of Maltazard's men suddenly show up and head toward the gate. Selenia and the others quickly escape, but before they close the gate, the evil soldiers break into the kingdom and start attacking the Minimoys. Arthur helps in the battle and manages to take down one of the men from the mosquito he's riding. After some of the men have been taken down, a few of them still standing suddenly approach Selenia and tell her that their boss wants to see her. Before they try to grab her, Arthur defends her, and this causes another fight. After a while, he gets knocked down next to the special sword on the ground. As one of Maltazard's men walks toward him, Arthur releases the sword, and this leaves everyone shocked.
The sword of power.
He then uses the sword to defeat the men and get them to apologize to Selenia for trying to hurt her. Beta Meche commends Arthur for what he did and says that he's the first person to release the magical sword from the ground. He then leads a chant and gets everyone to hail Arthur as a hero. Shortly after, Selenia tells her dad that since the magical sword has been released, she thinks it's time to continue her quest to defeat Maltazard. The king agrees with her, but he says that he'll only only let her go if she takes Arthur with her. Just before they leave, Betamesh decides to follow them, but Selenia doesn't seem to like this. Miro also tells Arthur to help him look for his son, Mino, who has been missing for a while. Arthur says he'll do this, and Miro thanks him. After a while, they pass through the central gate and begin their journey to Necropolis. Elsewhere, Granny wakes up after a long sleep and walks out of her room without knowing that the door is now broken. When she eventually realizes that something is off, she notices that Arthur is missing. Meanwhile, Selenia, Arthur, and Betamesh walk through the garden to meet a travel agent. When they meet the agent, Arthur introduces himself and says that he's looking for his grandfather. The agent then mentions that he once helped Archibald get to Necropolis. Arthur says it's where they want to go, but the man just closes his shop.
Necropolis, sure. Why not the moon as well?
Selenia doesn't get this, and she forces her way in. She then tells the man to give them 3 tickets to Necropolis. After he does this, he shows them the vehicle they'll be leaving with. As Selenia and Betamesh then talk about where they're headed, Arthur says he knows the place because it's under the water tank at his grandfather's house. Selenia believes a water tank will be a great weapon for Maltazard, but Arthur doesn't understand this. Suddenly, he starts hearing Granny calling his name, and he realizes that she's worried about him. Despite this, Selenia, Arthur, and Betamesh continue their journey to Necropolis, but their vehicle gets attacked on the way by a bee. As they land badly on the ground, a caterpillar pushes them even further into a river. They then break the vehicle in half, and while Selenia and Betamesh stay in one part, Arthur stays in the other one. Interestingly, Selenia and Betamesh seem really scared and call for Arthur to help them because Minimoys can't swim. Arthur looks shocked to hear this, and as he gets to the shore, he tells them that he's coming to help them. After he does this, Selenia mentions that they need to find a place to sleep for the night before continuing their journey the next day. As Betamesh then mentions that his sister will be 1,000 years old in 2 days. Arthur looks shocked. After Selenia finds them a flower to sleep in, Arthur asks if she'll really be 1,000 years old in 2 days, and she confirms this. She adds that it's also the day she'll take over from her father and become the queen.
And in 2 days' time, I'm to succeed my father.
She also mentions that she'll leave her position one day when her kids turn 1,000 years old. Arthur says she needs a husband to have kids, but Selenia mentions that she still has 2 days to find one. The next day, they continue their journey to Necropolis, and on the way, they come across Arthur's irrigation system. As he talks about it, Selenia says she hopes Maltazard doesn't find it, because he'll use it against the Minimoys since he knows that they don't like water. Coincidentally, some of Maltazard's men start cutting the straws, and Arthur realizes that they'll use his invention to destroy the Minimoys. As he hides inside one of the straws and says that he wants to repair the damage he has done, Selenia and Betamesh follow him, because Maltazard's men will surely lead them to Necropolis. Unfortunately, their plan doesn't work, but before they're caught, a good Samaritan takes them to meet a man named Max, who owns a club. Max seems pleased to meet them, especially because Selenia is a princess, and he serves them well. After a while, Selenia and Arthur dance together, and he asks about her age. Selenia then mentions that the Minimoys count their ages differently, and that Arthur is probably going to be the same age as her. Arthur looks pleased to hear this, and he asks if she has ever left the 7 Kingdoms, but she says she hasn't.
I'd really like to take you to my world one day.
Almost immediately, Maltazard's son, Darkos, enters the bar and sees Selenia. Darkos then tells her to dance with him, but she says that she'll never do that. This gets Darkos pissed, and he orders his men to attack Selenia, Arthur, and Betamesh. The 3 of them manage to fight well, and Max turns off the light in his bar so they can escape. He also gets someone to give them a map that leads directly to Maltazard's quarters. After the lights come back on, Darkos seems pissed to see that Selenia and the others have escaped, and he tells his men to find them. Elsewhere, Granny reports Arthur's sudden disappearance to the police, and they mention that they'll do something about it. Later that night, Arthur's parents arrive at the house to surprise their son, but Granny tells them that he's missing. She then says it's her fault because she kept telling him stories about the Minimoys. She adds that when Arthur heard about her money problems, he became obsessed with finding the treasure that Archibald hid in the garden. Arthur's parents seem interested in this, and they immediately head to the garden to start looking for the treasure. Granny doesn't get this because she believes they should be looking for their son, but they mention that they're sure Arthur will come back home soon. Meanwhile, Selenia, Arthur, and Beta Mish get to Maltazard's quarters and see his men taking some food to him.
What are they doing?
They must be taking food to their master.
Selenia then says that she has to go alone to defeat Maltazard. Arthur says he thought they were a team, but Selenia mentions that he has to look for the treasure he came for. She adds that if she succeeds, they'll meet again outside Maltazard's quarters. Arthur asks what will happen if she fails, and she mentions that she'll make him her husband and pass on her powers to him. Arthur is shocked by this, and as she walks away, Beta Mish congratulates him on getting married to his sister. Arthur still seems surprised by this, but before they leave, Darkos arrives and gets them arrested. After Selenia enters Maltazard's room, she tries to sneak up on him to stab him, but he sees her. He then says that it's nice to see her, but she calls him a monster. Maltazard says he isn't one, and he talks about when he used to be seen as a hero. Selenia says it was a long time ago before he got married to a weevil who made him a monster. Maltazard seems pissed when he hears this, but he mentions that getting married to a princess will cure him and break the spell. As he asks if Selenia is still single, she says she's not, and Maltazard looks confused. Suddenly, one of his men enters the room and informs him that they've caught Selenia's husband and brother. This gets him pissed, and he says that he won't spare her life because he knows that she intentionally got married to someone else.
You're more clever than I thought you were.
After he tells his men to take her away, he mentions that he'll let her watch her people die before he kills her. Meanwhile, Arthur and Beta Mish are thrown into a cell, and as they complain about this, they hear someone telling them to save their energy. It eventually turns out to be their cellmate, who says that the only way they'll get food from Maltazard is if they teach him and his people something every day. Arthur then asks for more information, and the old man says that he has taught them many things, including how to write, how to transport water from place to place, and how to harness light. Arthur remembers that his grandfather knew these things, and as he talks about them, he realizes that his cellmate is Archibald. They both look happy to see each other, and Archibald asks how he got to the land of the Minimoys. Arthur says he followed his grandfather's clues, and Archibald looks proud of him.
Oh, you are a true hero.
Almost immediately, Selenia is thrown into their cell. She looks sad and tells Arthur that she failed, but he tells her to remain hopeful. Following this, she sees Archibald and says that it's nice to meet him again. Suddenly, Darkos enters their cell with his men and mentions that it's time for Maltazard to decide what to do with them. Shortly after, they are taken to meet Maltazard, who sits behind the rubies that Arthur came to find. Arthur also sees Mino and realizes that he's now one of Maltazard's slaves. After Maltazard talks about his plans to destroy the Minimoys, he tells his men to free Selenia and the others so they can leave through a tunnel. Selenia realizes that Maltazard wants to flood the tunnel after they enter it, and he confirms this. As he tells them to leave immediately, Arthur says that before he dies, he wants to leave his bracelet with Mino, who he calls his friend. Maltazard agrees to let him do this, and as Mino goes to meet him, Arthur secretly says that Miro sent him. Arthur adds that he plans to help Mino escape, but that he has to use his mirror to signal his location the next day at noon. Before he says anything else, Maltazard interrupts them and says that he's giving Arthur and the others a head start of 3 minutes before he floods the tunnel.
I shall allow you a head start of 3 minutes.
Selenia seems pissed by this, but Arthur gets her to follow him, Beta Mish, and Archibald into the tunnel. During their journey down the tunnel, Archibald says he's tired and that he'll probably just wait behind to die. Arthur believes they can still make it out, but Archibald says they'll need a miracle. As Arthur thinks about what to do, he sees his toy car inside the tunnel. After Maltazard floods the tunnel, Arthur and the others enter the car and get away quickly before the water gets to them. Meanwhile, the Maltazard appear before Arthur's parents while they're digging the garden. Arthur's mom passes out as she sees them, but the leader of the Maltazard still asks Arthur's dad for the time. He looks shocked by this, but he still tells them what they want. After this, he enters the house looking scared, and as Granny asks what's wrong, he says that there are some men outside. Granny then goes outside only to see DeVito, who says that it's almost time for him to take over the property because Archibald isn't back yet.
It's noon.
Elsewhere, Arthur's toy car stops just before it reaches the gate to the land of the Minimoys. Luckily, the king is already expecting them, and he orders his men to open the gate. After they lock the gate and prevent their land from getting flooded, the king looks happy to see his children, and Archibald also hugs Arthur. Almost immediately, Archibald and Arthur are told that they have to leave because the doorway to the land of the Minimoys will close by noon. The king then tells Archibald that their central gate won't hold the water back for long, and he's counting on Arthur and his grandfather to help them. Archibald says that Arthur has a plan, and he's sure it will work. Since it's a few minutes to noon, Arthur says goodbye to Beta Mech and Selenia, and says that he'll be back soon.
Come back soon, huh?
As he gets out of the telescope, he becomes his real self again, and the Maltazards look happy to see him. He then sees his mom on the floor, and as she wakes up, she asks where he went. Arthur says he went to the land of the Minimoys, but as she sees the Maltazards again, she passes out. Meanwhile, Davido says it's time to take over the house, but Archibald and Arthur suddenly show up behind him. Granny looks happy to see them, but Davido cannot believe this. As Archibald then heads into the house to look at Davido's documents, he secretly tells Arthur that he'll try to buy some time so that his grandson can find the treasure. Just then, Arthur walks to the garden and waits for Mino to do what he asked. Shortly after, as Maltazard is telling his people that the 7 kingdoms now belong to them, Mino uses a mirror to direct a light beam from the rubies to the sky. Maltazard is shocked by this, and he gets pissed because Mino's actions might have exposed their location. Before he can hurt Mino,
It's nothing, really.
Bring him here.
Arthur sees the signal and throws a ball into the hole to destroy the straws inside and flood Maltazard's kingdom. Maltazard looks shocked by this, but he escapes and leaves Darkos and his people to drown. Just then, Mino leads the rubies to the top, and Arthur collects them. Almost immediately, he runs inside to give the rubies to Archibald so that he'll pay off Davido. As Archibald gives Davido a small portion of the rubies, he looks pissed and eventually tries to steal everything, but the Maltazards stop him from going anywhere. Following this, Davido gets arrested, and the rubies are returned to Archibald. After a while, Arthur uses a straw to send Mino back to the land of the Minimoys, and Miro looks happy to see his son.
It's Mino! Mino! My son!
The king also realizes that Arthur has redirected the water away from their gate, and he looks relieved. Much later, Archibald invites the Maltazards for a lunch party at his house. While they're eating, Arthur stays in his room and eventually stares out of his window. He then mentions that he has 10 more moons to go before he'll be able to meet Selenia again in the land of the Minimoys. Coincidentally, Selenia happens to be watching him, and she says that she'll wait for him. After seeing his granny struggle to pay off a debt, Arthur decides to embark on a quest to the land of the Minimoys to find Archibald's rubies. Despite the risk involved, Arthur seemed more focused on helping his family, and he didn't seem to mind going up against Maltazard. He eventually finds the rubies, rescues his grandfather, and saves the Minimoys from getting destroyed. In this story, we learn that true courage means putting others first, even when the journey is dangerous.